Okay, so we're going to get started. This topic, I think, is maybe one of the most important topics, and you're lucky to be watching this because most attorneys never understand this. Most law students, I'm sorry, never understand this topic. And once you understand this, or even junior attorneys, once you understand this topic, it's going to make you much more successful in your career, almost regardless of what stage you're at in your career. It's just an extremely important topic for a bunch of reasons. The first reason being that something that most attorneys don't really always understand is that a law firm is a business. And because it's a business, its entire goal to survive is to make money. And in order to make money, there's certain rules that it needs to follow, and those rules impact whether they impact associates, they impact partners, and all these rules are really understanding them and falling into what you need to do are are going to make you successful and what are going to make you not succeed in a law firm. Because ultimately, a law firm's entire goal is to make as much money as it can for its partners. And in order to grow, it needs to make money. So understanding what I'm going to talk to you about today is going to be very helpful. I'm going to show you what you need to do to convey to law firms you're going to make the money, to show them you're going to make them the most money, how to approach things, why certain people succeed in law firms and why other people don't, even getting jobs. When you get a job in a law firm is essentially saying, this person to us looks like the easiest for us to make money. It's the kind of this we can make money from this person. And so they're evaluating if they can make money from you compared to other people. And there's all sorts of reasons I could get into about that don't necessarily maybe not apply to you. But making money, we're going to talk about that today. We're also going to talk about a bunch of things that a lot of things people don't always understand, and just a couple rules that are really important. One of the things that I see, and I see this quite often, and it blows my mind. I see people's resumes, and I've been seeing this frequently, that when they describe their law firm experience, some people even list like their pro bono related work as the first thing on their when they talk about their experience. So they list things like that. And anytime you're putting stuff like that in your resume, you're showing law firms that you have priorities other than making money. And so I see people all the time, like from Columbia, NYU, Harvard, like all these different people that will put things on their resume talking about pro bono. They will not be working and they won't be getting interviews and they'll wonder why. The reason is because your resume and everything you're doing needs to convey that you can make law firms money. And that's what they're concerned about. You would be too. I'm going to talk about how partners evaluate people. I'm going to talk about how partners evaluate associates. I'll talk about how they evaluate law clerks. I'll talk about why you can how do you get jobs from being a summer associate to an associate, how you get jobs, how you succeed in a law firm, how you move to better law firms. All of this stuff is really related ultimately to economics, and how that drives the law firm world is incredibly important. It's something that I don't really understand why this subject isn't taught in law schools. It should be one of the most important things for people to learn because without understanding that, most people, the majority of people that could succeed in law firms, a lot of times don't end up doing so because they don't understand economics and how it applies. I want to just also talk about two things real briefly that before I get into this presentation that are very important. The first is anytime someone is giving you work to do, that's like a privilege. There are lots of people that partners could give work to, and that lots of people that they could hire. There's lots of people that clients could hire. So people often look at the getting work, is there something wrong with it, or there's too much work? And work is actually the most important thing you can have. There's nothing more important than getting work. And not only getting work, but once you get work, creating work. So that means finding extra things to do. That's what the best partners do with their clients. They're always finding additional tasks and additional work that they can do to create more money. And so that's your job as an associate even is to create work, to find extra things that can be done, to find extra ways you can bill, to earn money for your firm. And you can do this or you can't. But if you succeed doing this, the rewards are massive. essentially, when you develop a book of business and you do all these things, you own a business, and a law firm essentially works for you. It provides you associates, a brand, office space, secretaries. So your goal really is, as an attorney, should be to own a business, not always to do something else. If you've invested 5, 7, 10 years, you have the ability to own a business and make money. I'm going to get into a lot of this stuff today, but understanding really in the background why economics is so important. And this is not like a boring economics lecture. Everything that I'm going to talk to you about today is related to you. It's related to you getting jobs. It's related to succeeding in law firms. It's related to how you have your own business as a lawyer. It's all these things that can really change the direction of your life and significantly if you understand them. And I will tell you that you are very smart being on this webinar because you are going to learn things that most attorneys, meaning more than half of them, never really fully understand. And because they don't really fully understand it, they never succeed at the level that they're capable of. And anybody can succeed in this profession. You don't have to have gone to the best law school. You don't have to be working in the biggest firm. Anybody can succeed if you understand these rules, but most people don't. So I'm going to talk about that today. And it goes through every fabric of the legal career, of your legal career economics. It goes to, again, whether or not people will hire you. People hire you based on their evaluation that you can make the money in the way that they want to make money, meaning someone that's stable, that understands things, that is likely to succeed, that's going to work hard. These are all things that people will evaluate hiring you. It's how they evaluate advancing you. It's how they evaluate keeping you when they're letting other people go. All these things are related to economics. So if you understand this today, you're going to be so far ahead of other people that it's amazing. So clients in law firms are often overbilled. Law firms will have policies that say it's unethical to overbill clients, that we don't do that, all these sorts of things. But really, how does that work? Are you as an attorney ever going to be told that you shouldn't be overbilling clients? One of the funny things I will tell you, and I bring this up because I think it's very funny. The entire time I practiced in law firms for several years, in large law firms, I was never told that I was billing too many hours. Never told. Only one time when I was given free rein to go research for weeks at a time on one legal issue was I ever asked to show that I had done all this research, and I'd printed up hundreds of articles and things. But honestly, most attorneys are never told that they're billing too many hours. You will never be told that almost all the time. Now, you may be told that in a small to mid-sized firm that needs you to be extremely efficient and has clients, but to most part, you're never going to be told that you're billing too many hours, which I think is very funny. And so you have to understand a lot of what I'm talking about today and how this economics works, because again, this is not something that's taught in law school. But honestly, the economic aspects that I'm going to talk about today, if you just watch one webinar, this may be one of the most important things you understand because it will show you what you may be doing wrong. It'll show you what you need to do and help you advance and do well. And what I'm going to talk about today is the typical like middle market or even small law firm, most law firms that charge hourly rates to clients that can afford to pay. So that means I'm talking mainly about attorneys that are working in law firms that are representing businesses. Now, there are law firms that represent individuals where those individuals have a lot of money to spend on legal bills. But in most cases, if you're representing a company and you're working in a law firm, those companies typically have budgets where they can afford attorneys that are billing often a lot of hours. So that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about how work's generated in law firms, how it's staffed, billed, leveraged, and how all this is related to hiring, promotion, and then having security. And I'm not going to cover paralegals and legal secretaries, but those are also very profitable to law firms and can be. One of the things I will say is this topic is not something that talks nicely about law firms all the time. So I'm going to tell you what's bad about them or wrong and what they do wrong. But it's something that anybody that wants to work in law firms needs to understand. And if you want to succeed, it is a business. Law firms are businesses. And so understanding how they work is extremely important. I'm just going to show you, give you the background and all of this, and it should guide your legal career no matter what stage you're at. Because once you understand these rules, you understand what bad things happen to you, understand what good things happen to you. You'll understand everything. Law firms, large, mid-sized, small law firms that represent businesses, their goal is essentially to make as much money as possible. Now, they can do it in different ways. They can say that we only want to make a certain amount of money, or want our attorneys to go home at a certain hour, whatever, but they're all there to make money, and they don't survive if they're not making money. And so they have different billing arrangements. Some are fixed fees, some are contingency, but most law firms use billable hours. So there are law firms that don't use billable hours, but the majority of law firms do use billable hours, almost all of them. Historically, what was funny is that it's a relatively recent invention, meaning over the past 75 plus years, law firms used to just value or bill clients based on the value they were doing, what they thought they would do. They would often quote a flat fee, and that's what the client would be charged. And in other instances, there was a very funny book I was reading about this, and I don't remember what it was, but at the conclusion of a case, a partner in a law firm might just take a look at the file and say something like, this looks like about $2,000, send them a bill for that. So there was no billable hours, and things used to be just by that people were just billing based on the value of their time, of the work that they believed that they were providing. And it was funny because when this happened, when law firms moved to billable hours, they really didn't want to do that. Clients thought they were being ripped off by flat fees and people being efficient. And when they went to the billable hour, there were studies done and they figured out that lawyers were actually making a lot more money when they were billing by the hour. And I just want to bring up something that I think is very interesting. I've spent the past 25 years talking to attorneys every day. Some days I'll talk to 20 of them, some days I'll talk to five, but I talk to them every single day, multiple attorneys. And what's funny, I can tell you, this is just a flat out fact. I have never encountered that I can remember, and I'll tell you the exception to this, a situation where an attorney that I was working with was told they were billing too many hours. I have never encountered this ever. And again, keep in mind, we're talking about me talking to 10,000 plus attorneys. I've never encountered that. The only time I've encountered that has been with patent attorneys. So patent attorneys, a lot of times people do things on a mixed flat fee basis, and they might be told they have to do a certain work in 25 hours or 30 hours, and they don't, and they can get in trouble for not being efficient. But those are really more flat fee things. But again, never actually told by an attorney that they were told they were billing too many hours. Now, you can get in trouble for turning down work, even if you're busy, but never told not billing too many hours. Now, the opposite is I hear all the time. I talk to attorneys every day, and they say, I'm losing, there's not enough work. I didn't bill enough hours, all these sorts of things. And I hear that every day. So hundreds of times a year, or maybe more, maybe 1,000 times a year, I hear people saying that they're in trouble because they're not billing enough hours. I hear partners saying they haven't billed enough hours, they don't have enough work from their clients. I hear associates saying there's not enough work, all these sorts of things. I hear people saying they didn't get bonuses because they didn't bill enough hours. It's, again, people are compensated, people are fired, people are advanced based on their ability to bill hours. It's just as simple as that. Now, law firms really you can't always say they're guilty of padding bills and that sort of thing, because I'm going to tell you why. They don't have policies that say we pad your bills. They don't. But as institutions, what they do is they push their partners and associates to pad their bills to the extent possible. And what does that mean? So I had something happened, I don't know, a couple months ago. I was meeting this woman for a date that I was meeting her for the first time, and she was a associate in a 12th or 13th or 14th year associate in a very good law firm, and she'd gone to a not a great law school, like I think Loyola in Los Angeles or something, and had not done anything spectacular there, and consistently had moved to better and better firms. Like I think she'd been at Skadden at one point. And I was talking to her and she said something that I thought was very interesting. She was like, when I get a matter, like if I know it's a big client, I'm going to work extra hard on it and bill more hours. I'm going to work the hours, but I'm going to bill a lot more hours and maybe not be as efficient as I could. And that is true. So she may have done that, may have been one of the reasons why she didn't have any business, but she, as an associate and worked a long time she was advanced and kept getting work and did considered a good attorney because she was making sure that she was billing the clients that she was working for as much as she could. She was doing the work, but she was probably crossing her I's and T's and maybe not working with as hard as she could or as focused as she could. I mean, this is what she told me in order to do that. When a client is billed for money, I mean, some attorneys will overbill, but the hours that they work should be accurate. And it's just to understand is once you're in a, I'll get into this in a little bit more detail, but people will bill, like the most successful attorneys will often bill as many hours as they can with a straight face to different matters. And I'm going to talk a lot more about this in a second. So I'm going to talk right now about different seniority levels inside law firms, how people are advanced based on that, how the importance of these kind of economic rules going on in the background. And so give you a little bit of understanding from the standpoint of if you're working there as a summer associate or as a clerk, and then if you're a new attorney and then a mid-level and then a senior attorney, I'm going to talk to you about all of those different types of attorneys. So that's law clerks, summer associates, junior, mid-level, and senior associates, and then counsel level attorneys and partners, and then different levels of partners, which are income partners and equity partners, how economics are related there, and then how your value changes, your expectations when you're going into different levels, and why most people in large law firms do not advance because of economic things happening. And people that do advance, they try to go to smaller firms often, or they'll go in-house. And all this is happening because of economics. And so a lot of people don't understand this. They just do this because they don't understand why they're making the decisions they're making at different levels of their career. And I really hope that you take notes about what I'm going to talk about right now, because again, half the attorneys I speak with, maybe not half, but a good percentage of people have problems and don't advance in their career because they don't necessarily understand all of these economic rules. The same thing goes with law clerks, for example. So most organized firms will have law clerks. They may be summer associates. They may be people working there during the school year. They may be out, who knows, whatever. But they're often called summer associates. Large law firms have them. It's not in excess of 2,000 a week. It's actually in excess of $4,000 a week for a summer associate in a lot of large firms. And why do law firms have law clerks? I guess is a good way to think about it. If someone's coming in and working there in the summer, like they're probably don't know what they're doing. They're probably not that efficient. So why is a law firm doing that? And they honestly, a clerk is typically used for tasks which aren't profitable for the law firm. They may have them do research that they're not billing. They may research, for example. They may just give them things that they don't want associates working on. Sometimes they'll try to give them interesting work to but generally not. But there's really an unspoken rule. And what are they doing with the summer associate during the summer? And a lot of times people that are summer associates don't really understand that, or law students don't understand that. And really what is being evaluated, and no one's telling you this, and it's if you've failed in these positions or you haven't gotten them for whatever, really what they're doing is they're evaluating people to see if they can play the economic game inside of a law firm. And what is the economic game like? What are they expected to do? They're supposed to be, the economics are fairly simple. I'll talk to you about the billing, then I'll talk to you about the quality of work's important, if you're easy to work with, if you're just simple to work with as opposed to difficult to work with, if you're going to work a lot of hours, all sorts of things. These are some examples of, I had the same thing happen to me when I was a summer associate, but a couple of years ago, I don't know why I took this call, but I received a call from a summer associate who was working in a large Manhattan law firm. They just received their first review after several weeks. Literally, the exact same thing happened to me, but this is something that I said. And the person got a very bad review, comments about attitude, drive, and focus, just different things that you could, not nice things, but just how do you figure that out? What do they mean? And the after about 5 minutes or so, the I just said she was very upset, like practically crying. She's gone to a top law school, and she wasn't going to receive an offer from that law firm if she continued this way. And I just decided I would ask her, she'd been there 6 weeks or whatever it was, how many hours was she billing? And she said she'd been billing 35 hours per week. And that was, in my opinion, was the issue. So I just gave her very simple advice. I asked her how assignments are handed out and just told her to get all the assignments she could possibly do that are not necessarily billable or whatever. And just if they don't have to be billable, just get as many because you don't want to bill more hours than you might necessarily need to. But you just want to get as many out, bill as many hours as you can, and do this for every non-billable assignment you can get and work like just there's no tomorrow. Bill 70 hours a week for the next 5 weeks if you can. Work weekends. And I said this is all you need to do. And at the end of the summer, there were 18 summer associates. This was during a bad economy, and in her class, and she was one of five of them to get an offer. The firm said all these great things about her, was glowing and very strong, and she got an offer. And they just said all sorts of nice things about her. They were happy that she would join. Now, she also said to me that there wasn't any major difference in the quality of her work. She just worked more hours. And so if you were a law firm looking at her as a summer associate and you would say, who should we hire? Should we hire someone that's billing 70 hours a week or someone versus 35 hours a week? You would hire the person working 70 hours a week because obviously they're hungrier, they want to work harder. That looks great. People love that. And it's the same thing when people make partner in a law firm. They're often the hardest workers. It's just how it is. I'll tell you a story when we get to partners, but it's the same thing. And the exact same thing happened to me. So when I was a summer associate in long time ago, like 1994 or something in a law firm. That was a really bad economy. And exact same thing happened to me. The exact same thing that happened to this woman. I went into this review, and in my firm, there were, I think, maybe 20 or 25 summer associates. And there was another girl, I got the horrible review, and so did all the other associates. And people were just, this is in the middle of the summer, and I got a just really bad review. I was like, wow, what's going on here? And I was really upset about it. And I told a girl that had she also went to University of Virginia Law School and was working there as a summer associate. And I asked her how her review went. She said, oh, I got a great review. And I said, what did you do? Because I think a lot of people have gotten bad reviews. And she said, I have a friend that works in this firm, and she said, all you need to do is work as many hours as you can, and they'll really like you. And so I listened to that, and I did the exact same thing for the second half of the summer. And it was her, I, and maybe one other person that got offers out of this entire class because it was just a horrible, horrible year. And I even got an offer to come back at the end of a 2-year clerkship. So they gave me an offer like 3 years into the future, which is insane. So that should show you the benefit of working and a lot of hours. And most attorneys that are having issues inside of law firms are typically not getting enough work from other people. They're not, partners aren't giving them enough work, or the firm doesn't have enough work for them. And so the firm isn't making enough money to feel comfortable with them around and to feel like they can make money. So this is the issue for partners losing jobs. It's the issue for associates losing jobs. It's an issue for people advancing, all these sorts of things. The amount of work that you have, the amount of hours that you're billing will determine how successful you are. And that's all the other reason I said a lot of times people will sit around and they'll expect like the law firm to give them work. This is a lot of careers of people that went to top law schools and things end because they sit in their offices and they expect the firm to give them money. They're like, I'm an employee here. You should give me money. You should pay me money and I'll do what you ask me to do. And when they don't understand that the job of an attorney is to create work and to go out and chase work. That's what partners do. They create work from their existing clients. So you get work from a partner, you try to get additional work for them. And you get additional work because they like the work that you're doing. You're billing enough hours to their matters. And then you get additional work, and then you try to create work. You say, what else can I do that's related to this? Maybe we do this and we do that, and so forth. Most of the placements that I make, I've had one instance that happened recently, maybe in November, but most of the people that I place don't get fired. And when I speak to people that when I speak to law firms about why people get fired, and I've been doing that for years because my candidates aren't perfect, they get fired. And one of the things they have complained about is that when they get fired, it's usually the fact that the associate or whoever it is, the partner didn't said they had all this work and didn't have it, or the associate was leaving early and not available and not billing hours. Almost all the time that people are fired, without any doubt, I can say it's almost always because they're not billing enough hours, or they said they had enough work when they went over to a firm as a partner and didn't. Those are the reasons people get fired. You can get fired for people not liking you. You can get fired for doing something wrong. But if you are working very hard, law firms will overlook things that you're doing wrong. They will overlook you pissing someone off. They'll overlook you making a mistake because you're a profit center, and that works for them. They won't all do that, but most of the time when people get fired, they lose jobs or they're laid off, they're perceived as not working hard enough, billing enough hours on the assignments, getting extra work. When law firms lay people off too, there's always like cycles when law firms run out of work, whether it's in litigation or it's in corporate, whatever the practice area is. Not everybody's laid off. Like the people that are laid off are the people that aren't doing enough work, aren't getting enough work. So the people that aren't billing enough hours are the ones that are laid off. And that's why if you get laid off in New York from a big firm, it's very difficult to get rehired because the perception is that you weren't working as hard as the other people that weren't laid off. Because most of the time, people don't lose their job that are billing enough hours and making the firm enough money. And partners, by the way, also make money based on how many hours the associates and other people they give work to. So think about it from the standpoint if you were a partner. And I saw a guy lose his job. I'll talk about that story in a minute. But if you were a partner, partners get compensated usually a percentage of how much their book is, like that everyone's working on. They get compensated based on maybe they get a percentage of the hours or the bills that are sent out for associates. So if they send out a bill for an associate for 20,000, maybe they make 4,000 of that. These are just different ways to think about it. But partners are compensated based on their book of business, how many hours are billed to their clients. So when partners are talking about when looking for jobs, when partners are looking for talking to other firms, people ask them, how big is your book? And a partner's book, by the way, will be bigger if the associates working for them are billing more hours. So think about this. So a whole partner, their value in the market is based on their book of business. So an attorney with a $3 million book of business is less valued than one with a $5 million book of business. So if a partner can assign work to someone that's going to bill a lot of hours to the client and make their book of business larger, and they know that the client will pay it, then that partner is going to like that associate. You would too. So partners want to give work to people that are going to bill a lot of hours. And one other point, so even if the partner can't can't charge the client for all the hours you work, they still like that because then they can go to the client and say, hey, I'm writing some of this off to be nice to you. We worked all this time. So partners want you to bill a lot of hours because that influences how large their book is. This is just how it is. They want you to build a lot of time, even if you can. It's the partner's job to write off your time. It's not your decision whether or not it's too many hours. You do the best job you can. It means you proofread things, you over research them, you do whatever you can. bonuses are given to associates that bill the most hours. That's just because that's what's evaluated. You're not getting evaluated for a bonus based on how the quality of the work you're doing. You're getting evaluated for a bonus based on the hours. And why do hours matter? So I'll just tell you real briefly about hours. So if someone has 2,500 hours versus 2,000 hours, why is the person with 2,500 hours more valued? The perception is if you're able to get more hours, that the quality of your work is good enough that that you are that partners are giving you more and more work to do. So that's the evaluation. The evaluation is someone giving this person more work because if they're giving them more work, the quality of work that the person's doing is probably pretty good. So your hours are basically a referendum on the quality of your work. When I started my career at like Quinn Emanuel, like I was on path to build 3,000 hours a year. I had tons of work and people gave me repeat work. And I was sitting next to a woman that wasn't billing more than 25 hours a week because no one was giving her, she's a very smart woman from Columbia Law School. No one was giving her repeat work. So the quality, the number of hours you get is a reflection of the quality of work you're doing. And that's how law firms view it. So that the hours you bill is a reflection of your skill, if that makes sense. Because people do not give work to people that don't bill enough hours. Let me tell you a quick story about a sad story, but I want you to understand it because it's true and it really has a large reflection on what the kind of stuff that can happen when you don't understand economics. So I was working with this guy years ago and he was exceptional. He'd gone to the University of Chicago Law School and had these grades that put him just they were amazing. Like probably they don't rank people there, but whatever those grades were, he was like probably the top 5% of his class, maybe better in law review and all these things. And he got a job in a New York office, Washington, D.C. office of a New York law firm. And this young partner brought in this client, was very excited about it. And the client needed some legal work done. And the partner asked him to go do this large research project with spend as much time as you could on it over the next month or so. And the associate went and did this when started working on the project and was less than a day in and said, "This is unethical to do this because you can do this solution to this problem much more quickly, and this is what I figured it out." And this is what you need to do, and you don't have to build a client for any of this. This junior partner was exceptionally upset. It was their opportunity to build a book of business and bring in all this work. And then this partner was mad and said, "You go do it anyway." And he refused. And so he got fired and he was maybe less than 6 months in. And anyway, a very sad story. He ended up becoming a criminal lawyer defending drunk drivers in Washington, D.C., and then getting moved up from there and started doing burglaries and things. But that's what happened to someone that didn't necessarily understand the economic rules and very talented people. And I see this all the time. Like I was telling you earlier, people that put all this pro bono stuff on their resumes and they're just crazy. And people that don't seek out work. And in a law firms love telling junior associates often that they're unprofitable. You may have heard that and they don't make money. But junior associates are profitable, but usually not as profitable as mid-level and senior associates. And if you're a junior associate in a law firm, it's important to understand that these are very important components of law firm economic engine. There's lots of reasons, but the reason basically is a lot of times this junior associate is going to be set loose on issues without the client really thinking a lot about these bills being generated and so forth. So this is a billing rate of a very small law firm. But this is not, these billing rates are not normal. These are very low. But in most law firms, what's important to understand is if you take a first year associate, the $170 an hour, and you give them a problem to solve, the first year associate it may take them 1 or 2 days to solve this problem. It could be a memo, it could be a tax problem, it could be and most partners that are very smart, just think about this, they've been doing the same thing for 20, 30, 40 years, could probably figure out the same thing in 15 to 20 minutes. Now, that's not for all sorts of things, but in a lot of cases, that's true. So if you're an associate, a lot of times you've probably seen people in your law firm work far more than they should on an existing assignment because they may not have understood things. It took them more time to do it than they could have. And a law firm often, you would think it doesn't make a lot of sense to hire junior associates. Why would you do that when a lot of the stuff, or have very few of them, and a lot of the things can be figured out very quickly by someone that's more senior? I'll tell you, I had an experience like that when I was a young attorney. I was working on this tax problem, and the tax problem was really complex. It was just taking me all this time. And I went and ended up, there was a very smart partner, and I'd worked on it for a week and was having an issue figuring out. Then I'd given it to a mid-level associate. He couldn't figure it out. And so we went to this partner, and he basically said, just give me like a half hour and I'll figure it out. And that's exactly what happened. He figured it out. Very smart people can figure things out. I had another case when I was a litigator where I was told to spend an entire weekend and some extra days working on this issue with this satellite that had malfunctioned, and there was a threat of a lawsuit, and it was hundreds of millions of dollars. And so I worked on it, and I thought I figured it out a little bit, but then there was this partner, Quinn Emanuel, the very smart guy that come over from Gibson Dunn. So I might have worked 60, 70 hours on trying to figure this problem out. And then this Gibson Dunn guy, very smart, took a look at the whole thing, read it over, and then like in an hour came up with this incredible solution. He was using a lot of the information I provided, but I hadn't reached those conclusions in an hour that ended up saving the client like $100 million or something huge. So I'm just telling you how efficient a partner can be a lot of times with information, someone that compared to a junior associate. So why would they send me working for 60, 70 hours in this problem? Because they could. They could get away with it. And when this partner could have maybe figured it out. So junior associates and associates need training to be effective, but they're, like I told you, very good profit centers. They can be given work, and it's most of the time when you hire a law firm, the partners can figure things out a lot more quickly. Early in your legal career, they're offering going to be a lot of legal matters that a law firm can be researched and analyzed. Law firms will, litigation and other practice areas will often give junior associates all sorts of memos and things to write. And they'll tell the client something like, we'll figure this out, but it'd be best to get the answers to these questions. I could work on them, but my billing rate is high, so I'm going to have this junior associate do the work. Their billing rate is almost half of what mine is, and then the work is handed off to a junior associate. So how does that work? I'll tell you a funny story. So when I was practicing law, I had clients, and then I had a client when I stopped practicing law, I went into recruiting, but I still had these clients calling me, and then I would give their work to other people. So I had a client whose entire website, the logo, the text, the name of the company was copied. It was a design company in San Francisco that was doing work for Apple, and this other company came along, completely copied their website. And it was a friend of mine that I'd known from high school, was very upset. And so I called a partner that I'd worked with at Dewey Ballantyne, referring this matter to him. And so the partner went and had a junior associate spend $20,000 in time. And all that ended up doing was sending a letter to the firm that copied it that this is a serious trademark and copyright violation. If you don't take this down immediately, we're going to sue you. And it was like literally like a 3 or 4 line letter. That was it for $20,000. And this friend of mine got the bill and was like, what the hell happened here? This is unbelievable that they're doing this to me and that this happened. But this happened. That's exactly what I used to do when I worked for that party. He would give me all this very complex memo writing and things. And I was working for all these big clients like the Sultan of Brunei, these people with unlimited budgets. And that's how he was building his book of business. And that's what people do. So that's just how it works. So partners will give memos and things and all sorts of things that may not be necessary to junior associates to get their building book of business up. These memos and this research may be valuable to the client, The client's willing to pay for it. The biggest clients, I had a candidate I was working with at Sullivan and Cromwell, and the biggest clients will often demand that really good attorneys work on things. There was this Volkswagen diesel litigation, and I was talking to a Volkswagen made this software that made the diesel. I don't know, but it's talking to an associate Sullivan and Cromwell that was like 8 or 9 years out, and they were making him do document review because the client demanded it. So certain clients will pay for anything. But the point is that junior associates will often be asked to do things just to build the partner's book of business. And so these are just things to understand that this is what it is. So I used to, when I was an associate and asked to write memos for this big New York law firm, I would write the memo and it would take me, I would research it and I would write it. And maybe it took me 25 hours to do that, or maybe 20 or whatever the number is. And I would write a very good memo. I would understand the legal conclusions and everything. But then instead of just telling the partner what it was and writing something very short, then I would sit down and for the next 50 plus hours, usually 3 times or 2 to 3 times as long as it took me to write the memo, I would review it, tighten the language, double check the citations, making sure all the spacing between the lines was perfect. This is before you had grammar and things and computers, and just that's what I would do just to make sure it was perfect. Now, was that a good use of the client's money? Probably not. It's just a memo going to a partner, but that's what was expected. And so that's how bills are inflated. But that if the law firm asked for a copy of the memos, which they probably would get a copy, they would see something that was just completely flawless and it would be reviewed by another attorney. But the firm that's paying the bills is paying multiple times what they should, really necessary. And then you answer a question for this partner about you write a memo, and then if the partner is smart, they will often, and they know that the client's willing to pay, they will ask you to come up with and work on some different question could be helpful to the client. And all the partner is doing is building their book of business. And this information to the partner is helpful to the client. And oftentimes answers are found in things that by doing that save the client incredible amounts of money and make them win litigation. I had a case, this is working for this partner that had never lost a case. He'd had woman that was alleged she was raped, a very powerful man, and she ended up having to pay the man this just a small amount of $10 or something, but just this incredible guy, and he would continually just demand just all of this super in-depth research, and I had this one big case. It was a class action. There were 50 large law firms defending their clients. And he had been asking all this research. And because of this research, I ended up coming up with this legal theory that got all of them dismissed. It was amazing. And so I helped got rid of the class action, at least for our client. And it's amazing. So really good research can make a difference. I'm not saying that everyone that does this there's something wrong with it. But again, the partner will present this work that a junior associate does and stuff and say that it was worth it. And it'll say that this has helped us save money, made sure we got your back here. They often say, oh, this person was law review at this school and they're brilliant and things and to the people, whatever. But that's how things go. And then the partner will go to the client and say that maybe this associate worked 100 hours and they know that it might have been more than you wanted to spend. So I've reduced their hours by 20% or whatever that is, and make the partner look good. And so these kind of conversations where partners are talking to general counsels and CEOs, these things happen all day long, all over the country, thousands of times a day. And it's just a game, and it's how it works. And different, even if a associate has a steep learning curve, they need to play the game too. And so I'm telling you, like when you don't play the game as a junior associate, or even mid-level or senior associate, when you're unable to play the game, which everyone is playing, meaning we're going to try to get as many hours as we can most of the time, and by doing really good work, then you're playing the game, and that's what is expected. And if you play the game as an associate, as a law clerk, then you're more likely to advance. And if you don't play the game, you're in trouble. Junior associates, their billing rate is low. So a junior associate could work for 100 hours or 200 hours on a memo and far more time than's necessary. And in, and it's just the law firm is training the associate on the client's time. So the junior associate's learning about various areas of law. They're learning all these things and they're working more time than they need to. So, and the law firm's basically training them and the client's paying for it. And this is just how it works. Now, I'm not saying it's a norm at all law firms. I'm not saying all law firms do this. But in general, to be profitable, most large law firms need to have large platoons of junior associates that they're marshaling out to get work done. And again, this is what the biggest clients are paying for. I'm not defending the inefficiency of all this because it obviously is inefficient. But what I'm telling you is that and big clients are smart. They have general counsels that are reviewing the work and reviewing these memos. Then these big clients and companies often doing billions of dollars in revenue or worth hundreds of millions and billions of dollars, these big clients are willing to pay for it. So I'm not saying anything about this is wrong, but I am telling you, and because the clients that can afford to spend a lot of time to make sure things are done perfectly, meaning they want to win, they want to have the absolute best legal advice they can and do the most thorough work. They usually get the better end of transactions, they get the better end of litigation. They win more than they lose, all these sorts of things. But this is how the game is played. So understanding this as a junior associate, it's not your position to judge that. Your position is to work as hard as you can, to do the best job you can, to get additional work from partners and to come up with different types of things you can do to continually drive work to yourself. And if you do that, you're far less likely to get laid off. And again, every firm I've ever worked in, there's associates that are getting lots of hours, and there's associates that hardly have any hours. And this New York law firm I worked in, there were people, they didn't fire people for whatever reason, but there were a couple associates there that whatever talked back and told someone something wasn't necessary and undermined a partner and hadn't had any work for literally like a year. So they went into their office and they closed the door and they sat there and you could tell everybody's hours because you could look it up. It used to be able to just in order to enter your hours, you had to put in your first and last name and then it would pull them up. So anybody could look up anyone's hours. It's very funny. But again, as a junior associate, your role is to do the best work you can, to create work, to bill as many hours as you can, and to make partners' books of business larger. That's it. So if you can do that, that's good. Now, if they think you're billing too much, they'll say something. But again, I've never heard that ever for people in large law firms. I've never heard it. Maybe it happens, but never heard it. Okay, so mid-level associate. So this is an important role to understand. Mid-level associate typically is 2 to 5 years of experience, maybe 6, but it's typically that's the range. So it takes about a mid-level associate takes about 2 to 3 years to understand what you're doing, where people can give you assignments and you don't need a lot of hand-holding. And so when you talk a lot of times to junior associates, they'll often say something like they're only going to do this for a year or two. And the reason being that they see so many associates, especially in large law firms, will leave to go do something else. They'll go in-house or something after a few years before becoming mid-level associates. And often one of the reasons that people will leave as mid-level associates, you can coast for a while as a junior associate, but a mid-level associate actually is expected to be able to do the work of a competent lawyer, meaning most of the matters that a partner can handle, they could do. I mean, you might not be able to go to trial, you may not be able to completely lead a transaction, but for the most part, as a mid-level associate, you're pretty much expected to be able to figure anything out and to do it. And you're at a level where you can't where if you're making mistakes and things that it's no longer tolerable, you can't fool the law firm, you're given much more substantive work, and you're expected to be someone that people can essentially give work to and not have to worry about. And you're also proven. So a lot of times people would be out of the legal profession or law firms within a couple of years. But if you're able to go to your first law firm and you're able to, most people to work in a law firm, you have to typically work in the summers in a law firm because that shows you want to be in that practice setting. And then you go to work in a law firm and you work in a law firm for 2 or 3 years. And that shows that you're able to play the game, bill hours, stick around, given work, not let go. Then you become a mid-level associate. And that's a sign of competence, meaning you've been able to play the game. You're obviously making the money. People aren't letting you go. So you're marketable now. And you may be marketable to a larger firm, whatever, but you're marketable as a mid-level associate because you are a proven commodity that they don't have to make you partner yet. You're a hopefully it looks like you're committed to this practice setting. You want to advance, you're going to work hard, all these sorts of things. What people like about mid-level associates is these are some of the most profitable people for law firms. They're also something that the clients like the most. I'll talk about that in a minute. They can be given assignments, and the partner doesn't have to worry most of the time about the assignment being done properly. They also don't have to worry about the person not billing hours because they already understand that, billing a lot of hours. They don't have to be supervised like a junior associate would be. A mid-level associate can supervise junior associates, and partners like mid-level associates a lot better. The mid-level associates also still bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. So what does that mean? That means that bright-eyed and bushy-tailed means they're enthusiastic, they want to get ahead, they're going to treat the partners with a lot of deference, they're going to be enthusiastic, they're going to learn, they're going to do what's asked of them, all these sorts of things that you don't necessarily find when people get more senior and they get resentful. And I'll talk about that in a minute. Mid-level associates also will have the ability oftentimes to gauge how much work the partner wants. They'll be able to get along with the partners. They'll have the right attitude. They will bill a lot of hours if they need to. And again, most of the time, a mid-level associate is competent enough that they can get work done without having to ask a lot of questions, which is good. And also, the mid-level associates billing rate is pretty good. So it may be 50% less or 60% less or 40% less than a partner's. And so when the work's being given to the mid-level associate, that work can often be done very efficiently. So this is a level where it's actually very good for the client. The client is getting work done by someone who's competent that doesn't have a billing rate that's anywhere near the partners. So this is actually where the law firm starts being very good for the client, and also with the mid-level associate is providing a lot of value. And this is if you are an attorney without business, this is the most marketable you'll ever be as a mid-level associate. Law firms love mid-level associates and because it just looks very good for them. And most law firms will tell you that the most profitable type of attorney is the mid-level associates. They don't have to write off their hours like they might a junior associate. Their legal recruiters love them, all these sorts of things. And mid-level associates are trained, they know what they're doing most of the time. They can be assigned work without being threatening to the partners, which I'll talk to you about in a minute. They can be hired. They're not a threat to senior associates. So someone that's a senior associate is concerned about making partner. They don't want any competition. So mid-level associates can be brought in and they like that too. And so they don't upset the idea of upward mobility. And I'll talk a little bit about billing rates and things in a moment. These are again hypothetical. These are very low. So you could be talking partner $3,000 an hour. This is 7 times less. Counsel, same thing. So these rates are not representative. But if you look at a third to fifth year attorney billing out at, let's see, 235 to those billable hour rates, the mid-level associate isn't, these rates are much lower than a partner. And so it's not, when someone's sending a bill for this, it's less than what a partner would be. The partner can justify to the client, the person's very efficient and so forth. And this isn't, the client's going to see a bill and it's not going to look as bad as it would for a seventh year associate. The seventh year is going to be very close to what a partner is or counsel. And if a client is getting the bill from a seventh year that's $345 an hour and they're being told an associate's working on something that's almost the same price as a partner, they're going to prefer to have a partner do it. Just one other economic thing to put in your toolbox so you understand that a seventh year attorney, like a partner, may get 50%. This is not representative, but I'm just giving you an idea. A partner may get 50% of if they bill out at 400, I mean, it wouldn't be 400, let's say 1,000. If they bill out at 1,000, the firm may pay them $500 per hour that they work on. Whereas if associate seventh year, they may pay them 15% or 20%. So if a partner is going to get $1,000 an hour for a matter that they work on, and or $500 an hour, meaning they're going to get that share of the work, and the senior associate is going to get, they're only going to make $100 an hour from the senior associate working on this. So you just can do the math. So again, mid-level associates are great and people love them. They are great. So here's an example of a $100,000 matter the partner's bringing in. The how is this money going to be? Where's it going to go? And this is just an example where the partner, if they work on the matter themselves, they're going to get $30,000, and if they give it to someone else, they're only going to get 15%. And then so that's 45. The partner could make 45,000 and then 55. No, this is not a rule that I would actually much less than this, but that's an example. But partners are compensated, just remember this, most highly for the matters they work on. They're compensated less individually for the work that others do as a general rule. And partners have a big incentive to work mostly on bill at a higher rate than to give it to other people. So that's what they want to do. I don't like saying this, but I'm going to say it. So I've worked in a couple of law firms, and these are true facts. And I'm gonna maybe, you know what, I'm not even going to say is law firms I worked in because I don't want to, maybe it doesn't matter. But I've known partners that have consistently billed 3,000 hours a year. And I know that there's no way that those people build over 2,000. So how do they write down hours on things that are not accurate? So they will have clients that they know will pay for a certain amount of money. A lot of times these are people that are very good at generating business. They know clients aren't going to bat if that partner bills 50 hours at $1,000 an hour to their matter, even if the partner hasn't necessarily worked those hours. So this happens. It's just what it is. And because the partner can gauge how many hours the person's willing to pay for. And I'm not saying this happens everywhere, but I've seen it a lot. I had one, I think I've told this example in webinars before, but this was a very kind of interesting thing I'll just tell you about real quickly. I was in one firm, a guy was in the office next to he lived in Orange County and was driving to downtown Los Angeles. And it's a bit of a hike, over an hour. And so he came into work on a Friday morning and he slept in his car, took a shower in the office, and then worked 18 hours or 20 hours a day, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then turned in this brief that on a Monday to a partner to review. And he shared a secretary. Actually, I don't even know share a secretary. He went to the partner's office to discuss the memo, and the partner he'd given this to had written down that he'd spent also 50 hours working on this memo over the weekend, and the partner hadn't touched it. So the partner was literally billing 50 hours to something that he hadn't done. So this stuff happens. I'm not saying it happens in every firm, but it's been common. I've seen it a lot. Again, it's just thinking about it in a way that from a business standpoint of what people are doing and what law firms are willing to tolerate. And again, or clients. And I'm not saying this happens everywhere. I believe that there's certain firms that are just so upstanding, and a lot of them, there's a lot of very good firms where this doesn't happen, but partners all are running individual businesses. So the way to think about it is, regardless of the firm, partners have business. And so a partner with business has to decide how much it's going to charge its clients, what the clients are to do, how it can frame the cost of the work it's doing for clients to the client, all these sorts of things. So if you have a firm of 1,000 attorneys and there's 300 partners there, that's 300 separate businesses. So just think about that. So if you have a firm and out of those 300 businesses, 10 of them are unethical, whatever it is, not completely ethical in terms of their billing, it'd be impossible for most law firms to figure that out. So it's just something to think about. A partner that prices their service is too high, the client can go elsewhere. If the partner's not doing a good job, they can will go elsewhere. If the partner's not pricing their service high enough, then the partner is going to lose money. The firm will lose money. Firms also require partners working there to charge a certain amount per hour and things. To they give them minimums. They keep raising their rates. And again, mid-level associates can be beneficial to clients because it could be efficient work. And again, it's something that most of the time the work doesn't need to be written off. So just understanding kind of the roles in the mid-level associate. So here's the senior associate where things start to get a little bit complicated and difficult. Senior associates are something that law firms are, for the most part, not that excited about. They are and they aren't, and I'll talk to you about that in a second. But a senior associate typically has at least 6 years of experience. At when 6 or 7 years, most of these senior associates can do anything. They can do them. Maybe they don't know as much as partners, but they're competent, very competent, and very close to what a partner could do. It's not to say they're all as good, but they can figure things out fairly easily. And there's very little demand in the market for senior associates. And this is all due to economics. So I want you to think about this. So first to second year attorney, you get a job doing that, or as the law clerk. Then you become a mid-level associate and you're in demand, like everybody wants you. And then all of a sudden, you get 6 or 7 years of experience, and it becomes extremely difficult to get hired at that level. Extremely difficult compared to other people. Now, I'm not saying you can't get hired, of course you can, but large law firms becomes very hard. And this is all due to economics. Senior associates are a problem for law firms. As I explained to you earlier, their billing rate gets very close to partners. So meaning that because they're close to partners, partners are also required to bill a certain amount of hours. So a partner that bills a lot of hours, partners' hours are all partners are aware of the hours other partners are billing. So a partner that's billing 3,000 hours is, let's just say 2,500 is much more, looks better to the firm than someone billing 2,000. And if a client has a matter that the partner is choosing between doing work on their own to get their billable hours up or giving it to a senior associate, they're going to prefer to do it on their own, and the client's going to prefer to have a partner do the work anyway. So law firms, there are lots of major law firms that have clients that are so big and they have so much work that they don't care if a partner or a senior associate works on it. They'll still pay. It doesn't matter. They could have 15 senior associates working. And there are clients like that. Just think about major billion-dollar companies and things like that. They're the law firms that will do that. But for the most part, there's always a prejudice against senior associates. And in order to stay busy, senior associate has to get work that a partner would otherwise be doing, which is difficult for them in order to survive. And that means that the partners or people that are giving them work have to have work that can be billed out at high hourly rates that they would prefer to have that a senior associate could do instead of a partner. And even if a law firm does not, what law firms don't like about senior associates is that puts pressure on partners to generate work to keep those senior associates busy doing high hourly rate work. And so that's the challenge for firms. And then so they don't like that. It creates issues. The other thing is that a senior associate, you can survive. Obviously, senior associates go to law firms and they become partners all the time. Every big firm in the country, it happens. But the ones that succeed are the ones that are best at getting work from partners, and that partners will continually give work to because they like the quality of it. It's easier to give them. The client likes it, all these sorts of things. So in order to survive, a senior associate needs to be very good at generating work and then generating lots of hours. So that's how people make partner. When I was talking to when I quit the first firm I worked as Quinn Emanuel, and I was quitting, and they were trying to get me to stay, and John Quinn, as people were coming by my office, and then one thing I said, I was dumb. I was a kid. I said, oh, so and so didn't make partner, and I'm upset about that. And they were my friend, and the partner, and they said something like, yeah, but the person that didn't make partner only billed 2,700 hours, and the person that did build 3,000, what would you do if you were us? And so literally, it was all about the hours. And so the person that billed 2,700 hours had to leave the firm because I don't know if they left or what happened, but and the one that made partner just because of 300 hours. So it was able to get more work. And law firms, senior associates, because start feeling pressure, they should, to generate their own clients. And a senior associate needs to be able to get work. So they need to get work from partners or they need to get work externally. So if the senior associate is very good at generating work, meaning they can get partners to give them tons and tons of work and keep them busy and the partners like them, then that associate can be advanced either to a partner or if it's a great firm like Skadden or something, a major law firm, advanced to counsel maybe before being partner or an income partner and all these sorts of things. But if a senior associate isn't able to generate work or get work, they're typically going to be asked to leave because they don't make any sense from an economic standpoint. And then there's one other thing about senior associates that I didn't really bring up. It's that a senior associate is often, law firms don't like them because they have this whole kind of pedigree thing where, not pedigree, but level where a junior associate advances to a mid-level associate and then to a senior associate in hopes they can make partner. And so they may have been, and the senior associates are all very competitive for those roles. And if you bring in another senior associate, the people that are other senior associates are like, what the hell is this person doing here competing for a partnership? I've been here for 5 years, 10 years, whatever. So that's one of the reasons that there's issues with senior associates. Senior associates, I just want to be very clear, you certainly can get another job and things, but it's just very difficult for senior associates. So unless you are in a firm where you're being given a ton of work and also where you may have started laying the groundwork to bring in your own business or you can make income partner and then bring in business, you're in a very dangerous situation. And it's for that reason that most in a lot of firms, seen people will leave as senior associates to go in-house to do other things because they realize that they've hit a ceiling there because they haven't gotten enough work or they haven't been able to bring clients. So all this stuff is very important. Okay, I'll talk real briefly about partner and counsel of attorneys because I've talked by them so far, but partner's job as a partner, as same thing with counsel, but a partner, typically their job is to be able to generate work. So a partner can either generate work from other partners in the firm, meaning you can become a partner in a lot of law firms, major law firms, by being very close to certain partners that are willing to give you a lot of work and support you and advance you, or get work from outside clients, which is the smartest thing to do. And your responsibility is really going to be to generate work, whether it's again from other partners or it's from outside clients. Preferably, it's going to be from outside clients because any law firm that's efficient and knows what it's doing is pretty much going to be only wanting to advance partners that have business. And why is that? Because a law firm can't possibly function without partners with business. How can a law firm be expected to exist without partners with business? They are the ones that keep the entire system running. So a law firm doesn't, only purpose of a law firm, by the way, what does a law firm do? A law firm is essentially sitting there as a management organization to provide partners, a brand, to hire associates for them. Hopefully, the better the law firm, the better the associates, to provide office space, to provide secretaries, to provide payroll, to provide billing for the clients. A law firm is a service organization for partners with business. The only role of an associate or a senior associate without business or a junior associate is for partners that are trying to build their clients as much money as possible, hopefully. That's the role. It's your job when you're in a law firm. If you're thinking about it just as being there to do work, like you got it wrong. And this is something that almost everyone, I don't care if you went to Yale Law School, whatever, people don't understand this. The job of a law firm is not to give you work to do. The job of a law firm is ultimately to support someone that's been smart enough to develop their own business, which is what a partner does, and develop their own business and then that partner uses the law firm as a place to service for them to basically operate their business. And sometimes the law firm will charge too much money for that service, and the partners will leave and go to another firm that charges less. Or sometimes a law firm will not hire good enough associates or will make other decisions or won't like certain types of clients for the firm. So all these things happen and partners leave, but essentially that's what a law firm is services partners. And that's what you should, anybody that's in the practice of law should aim to have your own business. Like a law firm exists to service business people, which are partners with their own business. That you own a business. Like people don't understand this. The a law license is a license to operate a business. People used to go to law school and they didn't go to work in law firms. They went to get a degree and open their own business. They would move back to their town and be the lawyer. And that's how it worked for hundreds of years. So a law degree is a license to operate a business. So you can operate a business having your own law firm, doing personal injury or trust and estates or real estate, whatever, or you can have your own business working for a law firm and paying a law firm to provide you a service, which is something that people do and make millions of dollars a year doing. So it's just important to understand. So counsel level attorneys are typically, just so you understand their role, they're typically people that do really good work or don't want to work long hours or but are strong attorneys, counsel level attorneys, and their job essentially is to get work from partner level attorneys, or sometimes they don't have big books of business and are paid on contract and so forth. You have two types of partners in law firms. You have income partners, and then you have, which are income partners, and then you have equity partners. They're typically referred to different ways. So your equity partner typically is people with business, and those people with business are get a percentage usually or some sort of percentage of how big their book of business is, and then they also will get a percentage of profits that the firm makes that are divided up according to all these different ways of doing things. Counsel level attorneys typically don't have business. Income partners are people that will get a salary and have the ability to become a equity partner if they generate a certain amount of business at the firm they're at. And certain firms are more difficult to become a partner in than others because they have very high profits per partner that they don't want to dilute, and they only have institutional clients. And you're talking about Cravath and Sullivan and Cromwell and certain other firms, even Skadden and things, is very difficult. So it's just to understand that. So why does all this matter that I've talked about? It matters because every point in your legal career, like whether it's as a summer associate or a summer clerk or a junior associate, everything is depends on your ability to generate revenue and play by these rules that I've talked about. People think there's all these other things going on in the background. It's very funny. Every day, I see resumes from people that went to Yale Law School. And these people, they have resumes that basically say, I'm not willing to play the game because they graduate and they might do a clerkship and go to work for a public interest organization and think, hey, I can always go back to a law firm. And they'll do all these things that are completely unrelated to playing the game. And so they won't get jobs. They are like, why won't I get a job? Why aren't law firms hiring me? I'm so special. I went to Yale Law School, and then they ended up becoming law professors and things because no one will hire them because they just there's nothing wrong with going to Yale Law School. Obviously, presidents and all these extremely important people have gone there, and there's nothing. Again, it's a very incredible school if you can get into it. But the point is that there's different values that people come out with, and they're very good values, but they're not values that are related to playing the economic game. They're values that are related to things that attorneys believe are beyond that. So people don't get jobs. People don't get jobs if they have a bunch of stuff on their resume. It looks like they don't want to play the game. If you go in-house, it looks like you don't want to play the game. If you take a job with the government instead of working in a law firm, it looks like you don't want to play the game. If you are working in the government, you want to go back. Clerkships are one thing, but you have to look like you want to play the game. Everybody wants to make money, and no one's going to hire someone that doesn't look like they can make money. And your ability to advance is all based on if you can make people money. The law firm, by the way, is very exploitative towards partners. Partners are some of the most exploited people there. Partners will often, you could be a litigator and have these huge cases generating tens of millions of dollars a year for the firm and thinking you should be making millions of dollars a year from this, but the law firm may be very slow in the corporate. So they want to pay the corporate. I mean, it's just pay the corporate partners the money, your money. And so everybody is playing the game. Partners are playing the game for giving money to the law firm. Associates have to play the game. And you're going to basically, everyone is evaluated whether or not they're playing the game. That's how you stay employed. That's how you advance. That's all these sorts of things. And you have to, when you look like you played the game, it's not just billing hours that you talk about. It's like there's all these things that are important. It's being able to do the work is one thing, being able to do the work, looking like you will follow orders and do whatever people ask you is being manageable. And manageable means you have to do what other people want the way they want to do it. And if you don't want to do that, then you don't belong working in a law firm. I will tell you, if and associates are supposed to be managed, so you have maybe they say you have to be in the office 5 days a week or 4 days a week, and you have to do this and you have to be available. Associates are managed, but the most managed people out there really are partners. The most successful partners I know, Jesus, I know partners with $100 million books of business. These are people that I've encountered. I encountered one, you probably know who they are, but $180 million in business. But there are partners with big books of business. Let's talk about like $30 million. When you talk to these partners, they're they say things like, this is what my partnership expects. This is what my partners want. This is what the firm's policy is. Like these are team players. Even the most successful people making $10 million a year, they're still they're manageable. It's amazing. So if you think as a junior associate or something, like you resent these things and being managed and things, just understand that this is what, if you want to succeed in a law firm, you're going to be manageable your entire career. So you have to be manageable. And then you also have to look like someone that's going to stick with this career. So if you're bouncing around, then that's going to be difficult for people to make money from you because they know you're not going to stay. So all these sorts of things are important. And you have to learn these economic rules and you have to work, get as much work as you can from other people. And law firms exist to make money, and they wouldn't exist if they didn't. They wouldn't exist if they couldn't make money. That's the law firms that don't make money go out of business. They get overextended. They get too many loans. They lose clients. They have all these sorts of things. But to succeed, you need to make the law firm money. And if you think it's bad working long hours as a junior associate, one day, if you become a partner, you're going to have those people working for you, and you're going to be very glad that system works because it's going to build up your book of business and all these sorts of things. Yeah, so just understanding the different kind of rules. I've spoken about mid-level, junior associates, senior associates. Everybody is fighting here to get as much work as possible to survive. One other quick point I want to make, and we're almost done here, and then we can go to questions. But one other quick point that is important to understand. So when anytime you're getting work from someone else, so if you are a junior associate getting work for someone else, if you are a mid-level associate getting work, or a senior associate getting work from someone else, whoever's giving you work, if it's a partner, then that's your client. Anybody, if you're a junior associate and you're getting work from a mid-level associate, the mid-level associate's your client. So in order to get repeat business from a client, you need to do the work, good work, that you need to do good work for them. You need to work, they need to like you. You need to do whatever that person wants. You need to like them and want to come back to you and give you repeat business. That's your job. So you learn all these things as an associate or these are great learning lessons, by the way. You learn all these things, and then hopefully you're smart enough to go out and with all the lessons you learned working for demanding people and things, you're able to go out and get real clients who are going to pay the law firm money. And that will be how that works. So you learn to work for others, you learn to work for law firms, and people inside the law firms are your clients, and then eventually you develop your own clients, taking all the lessons you learn from all those people to be successful. And so these are how it works. And different size law firms have different demands. Different size law firms have different size clients who will tolerate different billing levels. But the most important thing you ultimately need to consider is can are you in and can you make whoever you're working for money? Can you make yourself money? And can you continually have access to work? And extremely important. And it doesn't really matter, by the way, the size firm you work at. So if you work in smaller firms or smaller markets, those clients may not tolerate a lot of hours sometimes. But if you want to make more money there, you need to figure out how to get more work from them or to get other clients or whatever. But the firms that have the highest salaries, the firms where you can make the most money, the firms that have the best brands are the ones that really have very well-defined economic models and that you will either that will either work for you or not. These economic rules that I'm talking about, anytime you're working for a client that is a company, like you want to try to get as much work. You want to play by these rules because that's how it is. And attorneys all the time, they will move from major law firms or smaller law firms to major law firms. So they'll get clients and do a good job, and then they'll move those clients to bigger firms and so forth. It's all or vice versa, but you just need to understand all of this and staying employed and advancing and to continue working. And one of the things the one of the final points I want to make, again, I'm very adamant and enthusiastic about this topic because I've seen go wrong for people every day. But one of the most important things you can understand is a fish that isn't in water will die. Like it needs water and access to water to survive. And it's no different for attorneys. Attorneys need access to work to survive. You can never lose access to work. If you lose access to work, you're in trouble. An attorney in law firms needs access to work. If you don't work in a law firm, you need access to work. Like the entire game is to always have access to work. If you lose access to work, that's bad. So you see people that lose their job and they may be unemployed since May. Now here we are in January. They've lost access to work. And if once you lose access to work, you're in trouble. So you always need your entire career, you need to have access to work. And I learned that incidentally from there was a guy that I knew. I was clerking in Michigan for a federal district judge, and there was a clerk in that was working for a magistrate judge, and he'd gone to Thomas Cooley Law School, which I think is now Western Michigan or something. It was literally one of the lowest ranked law schools in the country. But he was taught something that they said to him at one point. Someone said this to him, and it was really telling and really smart. They said, never stop working as an attorney because if you stop, your career can end. And so you never want to lose access to work. And having access to work is one of the smartest things, the smartest lessons I can give you because once you lose that, you're in trouble. I don't like when people go in-house. I don't like when people go to work for the government. I don't like when people go to work at public interest organizations because most jobs, if you go in-house, that's not stable because companies go out of business, they merge, they have new general counsels that come in and clean house and bring in their own people. All sorts of things happen to in-house people when they go in-house and they lose their jobs and then they're unemployed for a long time. The only way to continually have access to work is to work in a law firm and get your own clients or to get very close to partners that have a lot of business or to develop a business doing personal injury and whatever. But even if you're doing personal injury, you're going to be advertising on buses and doing all these things to get business so you don't lose access to work. That's why you see all these personal injury ads everywhere and on the radio and things, and because those people are trying to get access to work. You always need to have access to work. And if you lose access to work, your career is over. Partners that lose clients and don't have any business have lost access to work. People that get fired are losing access to work. People that become senior associates and are told that they have to find a new job are losing access to work. Your entire job is to have access to work, and work is a privilege. It's like the most important thing you can possibly have. The bigger the clients you get, the more work you get. So you want to get big clients, but having access to work is incredibly important, and it's at every level of your career. Whether you're a summer attorney trying to get as much work to bill as many hours as you possibly can, which I told you is incredibly important for a summer associate, whether you're a junior associate, not questioning work, making sure you're helping people build their book of business, regardless of what it is. But you have to get as much work as possible. Partners need work, associates need work. If a partner loses all their clients or most of their clients, they will lose their job. I was worried when I worked in this big New York law firm that there was a woman there. She was president of the Bar Association, LA County Bar Association. She was all these incredible things, but she had lost some clients, and so she'd been an equity partner. And they're like, okay, you're an income partner. And then they even came back and they were like, okay, we don't have enough work for you, so you're losing your job. So thank God she was connected enough that she very quickly was able to move into a very important judge role. But that's she's able to get access to work because of all her connections. But if you law firms are not nice if you lose access to work. You need to have access to work and provide values. And there's always competition for work, and everybody needs to be able to bring in work, and it's incredibly important. You can go to smaller firms many times, or you can, because you can, the billing rates are lower, it's easy to generate work, you don't need big giant clients, but everybody's trying to get access to work. I know a guy that he started his career at, it's either Gibson or Melviny, and he's very smart. He was the youngest graduate of Harvard Law School in history. I think he went to college when he was 13. He was living in the dorms at UCLA, and then graduated when he was 16 and went to Harvard Law School, and then graduated at like the age of 19 or something. Well, and did incredibly well there. And he got a job at O'Melveny or Gibson, and he was there for a couple of years, and then realized the only way to advance there would be to bring in these large institutional clients. And he said, "This is insane. How could I possibly? Is this something I can do?" And so he ended up going and starting a personal injury firm that now is extremely successful. Why? Because he wanted to have access to work. And people do this all the time. People start family law attorneys from big, you can do it, but you always need to have access to work. And all of these things are important. And at the end of the day, you need to understand that the most important thing in your career, again, this is something Mike told you that the Harvard Law School guy figured out. It's something that I told you that the Yale Law School people didn't figure out. A lot of these Yale Law School people, by the way, too, they don't they have issues. They don't always reach their full potential. They can go to be policy and things, but do you want to have your own business? Do you want to have a career? You learn these rules. You can be an attorney for the next 75 years. If you graduate from law school at the age of 23, not 75, but 70 years, 60 years easily. But most people don't, and they don't have the careers you're capable of, and they blow it early on by not understanding this. So this is probably one of the most important presentations you could ever watch for your career, just because there's so much going on here in terms of what I'm talking about. And it's really the backbone of everything. It's how the whole system works and functions, your career stability, your security, your ability to support your family, your pride, your all these sorts of things are incredibly important. And I hope you got a lot out of this, because if you don't play this game, you're not gonna have the career that you're capable of. And just remembering law firms are businesses. Everything that happens inside of them is related to business, your reviews, your opportunities, your security, your trajectory, all driven by economics. There's nothing else really going on. It's not people liking you. It's not your race, your sexual orientation. What is all economics going on in the background? And if you don't understand how your firm makes money, you don't understand who controls the work, what your firm needs from you, you're going to be often confused. You're going to be resentful. You're going to be pushed out. You're going to have all these issues that you normally wouldn't have. And people make mistakes all the time. Like here's one of the most basic economic issues. This is a very funny story. So there was a guy that I know at Quinn Emanuel, and he was a very smart guy, Harvard Law School, like Sears Prize winner, which means he's like the very top of his class, Harvard Law Review, all these things. And as a Quinn Emanuel and billing incredible number of hours, 2,800 hours a year or something like that, and comes up for partner and doesn't make it. And so then he leaves and starts his own firms, very successful. So when I'm talking to him, I'm talking about hiring him to represent me in a case. And talking to this guy, and it's like, why didn't you make partner? And he's like, oh, I made a mistake. I didn't get work. I didn't have a sponsor. I didn't find someone that had a lot of business to sponsor me to be a partner. So when it came up for me to make partner, there was no one that had any power standing up for me to help me. And helping him, by the way, you go to work at Quinn& Mann, you make partner, and you $5 million a year. This is a major without business. Okay. So this is major thing. 5 million, 3.5, 4 million, whatever it was. This is years ago when that's when they were paying. I don't know if they pay that with people out of business. That's what happened. So you just $5 million. The only mistake he made was not understanding that he needed to be close to make partner to have someone with business sponsor him. That was it. Didn't do it. I know a guy that was at a trial with John Quinn and did an incredible job and helped him. And then when it came time to evaluate a partner, John Quinn was like, I need this guy to be partner. Boom, $5 million a year job. Come on. These economic rules are huge. You just need to understand it. Where do you get work from? Who's got power? Who's got the business? How do I get business? I know attorneys, again, like I said, they make $10 million a year. They understand these economic rules. You have to be indispensable to the right people. You have to be able to generate revenue. And if you do all this, you can improve year after year. You can stop guessing and start understanding these. I know one of my best friend was a partner at a big firm. He made partner when he was maybe, what was he, maybe 31, and did it for 14 years, making several million dollars a year, and then retired at the age of 45. Maybe not even that, 44. So you play these rules and you understand them, you can do really well and have a really good life and career. But most people don't understand them. And I just want to make one final point, and then we'll go to questions. People think that may not like being in a junior associate and billing all these hours, and or a mid-level associate may not think it's fun and the work is tedious and all these sorts of things, and they may think, oh, there's no future in doing this. I can tell you that when you become a partner and you have your own clients and you're running a business, like it's much different, like essentially owning a business and running a business than it is working for someone else. You're a partner in a law firm, or you bring in your own business, you have a business. And again, that's much more fun than it is doing something than not having a business. Think about that. Anybody can have their own business doing this career. So you have your own business. That's exciting. And having all these people giving you work. You have 20 clients, one fires you, you're fine. If you go in house and you get fired, you're not fine. Or if you're an associate, if you're a partner working for one partner and that partner doesn't like you anymore, you're out of business. I mean, all these things, or that partner's having problems. So just a lot to think about. So we'll take a quick break. I hope everyone understood or got a lot out of this today because it's extremely important. It's the foundation of your entire career as an attorney. And you can learn and fix all this. Even if you're 20 years out, by learning this stuff, you can do well. So we'll take a quick break. And then when we come back, we'll take questions. This is a live webinar. So I will answer every question that people have, whether it's related to this or something else. And then one thing I can say is questions during these webinars are really one of the most important parts. Listening to what I talked about is important, but the questions are important too, because a lot of times people will ask questions, although sometimes they'll say things like what made them successful and what they learned out of this, things that I haven't thought of, or sometimes people will actually share mistakes that they made that you may not, that may prevent you from making mistakes, or ask things that are related to that will help you. So it's really, I think, one of the times the most important thing is to watch the questions. And then, but again, you can ask questions about this webinar or anything I spoke about today. So we'll be back in 1 minute, and then just 1 or 2 minutes. And then when we come back, I'll take questions. Thanks. All right. Because, yeah, and I just honestly, I want to, everyone in this meeting, I want to commend everybody for spending the time watching this today. Honestly, most attorneys do not would have never taken the time to learn about the kind of things I'm talking about today. And I can't even emphasize enough how important all this stuff is. And so many careers, I hope yours is one of them, have been saved by, would be saved if people understood this. And really just want to commend you for spending the time watching this today. And it can totally change the direction of your career and your life and your family's life by understanding these rules. And most people don't understand them. Law schools too, I just are the professors and many of them and are, I'm sure you're aware of this, but many of them are very left wing, and I don't have a problem with left or right wing people, but at the same time, it's not always pro business. Like obviously, if you go to Yale Law School, you're not going to be exposed to pro business people. It's pro people that are left wing don't aren't necessarily always pro business. And so understanding these business rules, people don't always learn them. People come out of school with the not thinking like a business person. They think pro bono, like the different things, and that can hurt you. You have to understand these business rules, and regardless of whether or not you necessarily agree with them all, this is just how the world works. And understanding these rules is something that you need to do. So give me a second here. Okay. Okay, let me see here. Okay, so sorry, I'm having an issue selecting all these questions here. Give me a second. Sorry, I'm having a hard time copying these questions. Make sure I can, just give me 1 second. I'm going to stop sharing. I'll share everybody's name. Give me 1 second. By the way, too, if you ask questions, I won't show your name. So a lot of times people worry if they're logged into Zoom. So that's what I'm doing right now is I'm just taking everyone's name off of here. Okay. And then again, if anybody here has any additional questions, hopefully you can ask some. So let's see here. Let me go back to here. Okay. So first question, I've offended a partner. Are there ways to repair the relationship? How can I display that I am indispensable attorney when trying to repair a relationship and my reputation? So most attorneys, by the way, this is something that hopefully can help you. Almost all attorneys are fired at some point in their career, some many times, some once. They're fired, or they're in a position where they've destroyed their brand in a law firm and they have to look for a new position or whatever, or they're not given work. So most attorneys run into issues like that. So the only thing you need to think about, essentially what I spoke to everyone about earlier, is that clients. So partners are your clients. So the nice thing about working in a law firm is that you're essentially working for, especially large law firms, you're working for very demanding clients, and those skills of working with those clients will translate into success later on. So you need to learn how to work for different partners. So sometimes you may have offended one partner. You're obviously going to be better off if you have more clients rather than fewer. So you want to have work for more partners rather than fewer. So if you offend one partner, then you still have other people giving you work. It would be the same thing if you had a book of business. You'd want to have multiple clients. So you have multiple people. So there are people that you just won't get along with. There are clients you won't get along with where it's a bad match. There are partners you may not get along with where it's a bad match. And so that's not necessarily something you can be in a law firm as an associate and have partners that don't like you, but you still can advance. Now, how can you be indispensable and repair the relationship with that person? The best way is to try to get more work for them and do a good job with them to try to fix whatever you did wrong that upset them. And I don't know what you did wrong, but if you want to fill me in later on what you did wrong, I can try to help you. But people will offend people all the time. So you just learn lessons from that. You learn that when I bring in clients, this is what I need to avoid. And what great training, by the way, a law firm is, because it's showing you how to act with clients, how to work with demanding clients, and hopefully those are skills you can use the rest of your career. People offend people all the time, and you have to, if you do that, you have to be careful. Okay, let's see here. Since personal injury attorneys provide services usually based on contingency and the money that is recovered, are attorneys required to bill hours? How does that work since you are probably evaluated based on how many cases you settle and you get for the client, but is billable hours a factor? So it depends on the personal injury firm, but personal injury firms are run in different ways. I know people that literally get jobs out of law school, third tier, fourth tier law schools in personal injury firms, and their first year make more money than associates in top AM Law 100 law firms. How do they do it? They get paid based on, sometimes they get a salary, it could be very low, like 60,000, 80,000, those 100,000, whatever in a big city. But then they get a percentage of the recoveries they get for their clients. Most personal injury cases for personal injury firms, 95% plus of them end up settling. That means that if you're able to settle cases for a certain amount, you can get money. So that's one way that associates make money in personal injury law firms. Not all of them do things that way, but no, you're not required to bill hours in a personal injury law firm. One thing I'll just tell you that's very interesting about personal injury. So when I was in law school, I don't know what was wrong with me, but again, I'm saying this in a funny way. I was very interested in torts and personal injury, so I decided to write a book about it. Again, what the hell? So I started writing this book my second semester of law school, and then I spent another 6 months or some writing this book, and it was actually cool. I was able to teach a couple of classes when I was in law school at university. But I went around the country interviewing attorneys, and what I found is when I would go into even small towns, whatever, someone could hold themselves out as a generalist doing, but most people made most of their money, even if they were like family law attorneys in a small town like Lancaster, they still would do personal injury and make most of their money doing it. It's a very good practice area if you want to do it and learn how to. It's all about generating business, but no, there's no hours for that. Yeah, so can I get a link to this? So yes, I will send the video of this, hopefully. I don't know if it'll take the Q&A, but I'll send the video and send the PowerPoint to everyone after this. PowerPoint. Okay. What is the typical compensation range for an attorney going into an in-house role? Attorneys that go in-house that depends on the size company. Typically, your salary in-house is going to be a lot less than it would be in a law firm, but then you get the trade-off of hours and things. So what is the compensation range? So it could be, depending on the company, it could be for someone coming out of a law firm, it could be 880,000 to 500,000, maybe a little bit more, depends. Most people, when they get jobs in-house, their compensation is somewhere, I would say, in the range of 180 to 250,000 if it's a large company. It just depends. And you just never know what it could be. But that's the range, I would say. And it depends on the market you're in. It depends on the size company. So you have small companies, you have large companies, you have middle market companies. So that would be the range. What should I learn about law firm profits per partner and leverage ratios while still in law school? So when you're in law school, I don't know that there's a lot to learn. I recommend that someone that's in law school, it depends on the type of work you want to do, but I typically would recommend trying to get a job with the best law firm you can. The reason being that you want to get a job with the best law firm you can because the best law firms will have clients that are willing to spend the most money on things. And so you will get trained by doing a lot of work and being able to go into a lot of depth on different issues that smaller clients wouldn't pay for. So if you want to be a good attorney, your goal is probably going to be to get the training you can in the best law firm you can because it'll train you. And again, something that people don't understand is essentially what you're doing when you go to work in a law firm is you're getting paid to be trained. What a great experience. And they're paying you and they're going to train you. And it takes about 5 years to be competent. So it's 5 years, 10,000 hours. And I didn't make this up. This is actually a Malcolm Gladwell book, but it's an interesting Gladwell book, but it's true in law firms as well. I've heard people say that a bunch of times. So it takes about 10,000 hours or 5 years to become competent in a practice area. So what should you learn about profit per partner and leverage ratios while you're still in law school? If you want to be partner in a law firm, you're going to have to understand if it's possible to even be a partner in the law firm you're going to be in. So if you go to work at Cravath, Swaine and Moore, your odds of being a partner there are extremely low, even if you're an incredibly talented and good attorney. It's just it's very difficult to do. And the profit partner there are huge, but that's something to understand. So do you need to understand all this while you're in law school? I don't think so, because most attorneys will lateral out of the firm that they join. Your only concern when you're in law school is really to probably get the best job you can and get the best training you can. Now you could go into family law and do all these things that you don't have to worry about when if you are not working in a large law firm, but I don't think you need to worry too much about that when you're in law school. You just want to get the best job you can. What are the best certifications and credentials that attorneys can pursue to boost their credibility? I think marketability. So I'll just be completely honest with you. So if you want to be a tax attorney, it's a good idea to get an LLM in tax. If you're if you or want to do executive compensation or ERISA or something, there's LLMs in that. There's education law. And so some of these things, like some LLMs, 99% of them won't, but there's some that will help you. If you want to be a tax attorney, you should have an LLM. So some of those things will help you. But people think all the time that they need to go get these certifications and it's going to make them more marketable. But in reality, that's just not the case. What's going to make you most marketable is working somewhere and getting work from people and being able to or developing a book of business. It's not your certifications. And I think it's actually pretty sad. I there's here and I live and work in Malibu, California, and there's Pepperdine's here and people go and get they spend 2 years and a couple $100,000, whatever it is, getting these certifications to be mediators or something, and think that's going to help them become a mediator. There's these LLM programs. Maybe it's not mediation, it might be arbitration. I don't know what it is, but in reality, arbitrators are retired judges. They're people that were partners in big law firms that are retired. They're not people that go to Pepperdine and spend 2 years getting an LLM. So the certification is ridiculous. I don't really understand. So you don't need to, sometimes people want to be a privacy law attorney and look at a privacy certification, but really the just getting a job in a law firm is the best certification you can. And then getting clients in that law firm that's better than anything you can do. I don't like people thinking that they can go get these certifications and take these classes and put them on their resume and that's going to help. But what's respected in the legal profession is having access to work and working. And if you want to get into a different practice area, you can work on networking and trying to do that somehow, but don't worry about certifications and credentials to help you get ahead. You have to worry about getting the best job you can to get ahead. And if you're not working and you're doing this other stuff, it's not helping you. If you're in a law firm and you're spending time trying to get credentials when you could be billing a lot of hours, and how's that helping you? I look at resumes all day, every day, talk to attorneys all day, every day. People will say I'm getting this credential and things. I have almost in my entire career, it doesn't impress me because I can't get people jobs that they've just taken some classes and got some credential on their resume. It just looks like they have time in their hands and not enough work. And so it doesn't help me. And only get paid in my job if people get jobs. So I'm just telling you, it's not something that I see that helps that much. Okay, what are the most effective strategies to improve our law firm's online reputation and attract top legal talent? So, top legal talent will be attracted to you based on how much money you pay. So that's, I guess that's one of the biggest things. If your law firm pays enough money, it's going to be attractive. There was a law firm in LA. I don't know if it's still there. I went down and met with them years ago because they wanted to, anyway, they liked all these articles that I'd written and they wanted to make a book or something. Yeah, but anyway, this law firm, what was interesting about them is they paid the most of any law firm in the country. So they paid like 30,000 more than the Am Law 100 law firm would pay, the Cravath scale, and they only had 10 lawyers there, so they were only basically talking about two associates or something. That was funny. And but yeah, anybody that wanted to, they get anybody. So if your law firm pays a lot of money, then it's going to attract top legal talent. It's also going to improve its reputation with the associates because people are going to write about it like they did this other firm. So that's the most effective strategy to attract top legal talent. Then your next most effective strategy to attract top legal talent is to hire attorneys with the best possible credentials. So if you have a bunch of people in your firm from Stanford Law School, well, other people from Stanford are going to be attracted to your firm. If you have a bunch of people, like I used to BCG, I don't know why I did this because it was not the smartest thing to do, but I did it for years, for 20 years. I used to hire people that to be recruiters that went to the top law schools and worked in the top firms. And so I had all these people here from Harvard and from I even had a guy from Yale and from all these top, whatever, top law firms, top schools. That was the hiring criteria. And they would just attract each other. The people, everyone was from a top law firm and everyone. And how did I do that? I just did that I hired, and you get enough density, you get 7 or 8 or 10 people from top law schools. Then other people from top law schools are like, okay, we're going to come here. I guess we'll all talk about how we went to a great law school and worked in big firms. And that's what they did. And that for me was as a side, I thought that was the best strategy for working with people from top law firms looking for jobs. It was a good strategy, but in reality, the most important thing is for someone to be a really good advocate and be able to find jobs and connect with law firms. But so how do you do that? To attract top legal talent, you hire people from other big schools that have really good qualifications, and then they will attract other people, or you pay the most. And then in terms of your online reputation is something that's important for attorneys, for all sorts of people. I used to be very concerned about it. But a law firm's reputation will be essentially based on what it says about itself and what other people say. So you can improve your reputation by the things that you're writing about yourself on your website, about articles and things that are out there, about what other people are saying about you. And by those are the main things I would say. I don't know what kind of reputation you're talking about, if you're talking about people talking about you on Yelp or what, but yeah, those are, and if you want to ask a follow-up question, I'll answer that. But I do know how to attract top legal talent, so I hope that was helpful. What is the best way to prepare for the MPRE during law school? I don't think you need to prepare for the MPRE very much. I think if you spend maybe a day, not even that, reading up on it and take the exam, you'll be fine. I think it's not the bar exam. It's actually a very easy test. I don't know that I know of anybody that's ever failed it. When I took it, I think I did take it in law school. I maybe opened a book at 3 in the afternoon. I studied till 9, maybe 10, and maybe not even that. Took it the next day and passed. It's mostly common sense, but at least it was when I took it. I don't remember. And again, I'm not saying like I'm a test master because I study for the bar like incredibly hard, but that test I don't think is very hard. So I don't think you need to worry too much about it. How can knowing the economics of partner compensation help me decide whether or not pursuing partnership is worth it? Economics, the partner compensation is different at every firm. It's different if you have your own firm. Like I have a friend, he's a good friend of mine. He bills out at $500 an hour. He works in Washington, D.C. He doesn't have any associates or anything working for him. He's got too much work. He's billing 2,000 plus hours or 2,500 hours a year. He's very busy. Is that worth it? Yes, of course it's worth it. He makes over $1 million a year and he's doing all his own work. So he's a partner. He's his own partner with his own firm. So is that worth it? is it just depends on the firm. So the compensation of every law firm is different. It's going to be different in a small law firm. It's going to be worth in a large law firm. It's going to be different if you have your own firm. But the most important thing to understand is just, do you have business? So it's, do you have business? And so if you have business, you can do whatever you want. You can work in a big firm, you can work in a small firm, as long as it doesn't matter. If you have business, you have to decide where you're going to work. Partners with business, like if you were a partner with business, partners with business, they go to firms where they do it in all sorts of ways, but firms where they feel they can make the most, right? Can make the most, happily make the most, can happily make the most. So essentially the most. And so what does that mean? So that means happily means it's not stressful for them. They're working in a place they like. The firm has a good brand. Their clients are going to like it. The firm will pay them the compensation model of the firm. They like the compensation model, meaning the way the firm compensates them for the business, the profits per partner, et cetera. So that's what partners do. So partners will move firms all the time, and they will move, but the economics of partner compensation have nothing to do with as an associate. They have to do with how you're compensated for your business. You can be compensated based on all your own business. You can be compensated based on all these different ways. So I wouldn't, all you need to do is worry about getting business. And then you can think about different economic models, different firms, working alone, working a small firm, creating your own firm, whatever. Okay. What are the best countries for US trained attorneys to practice abroad? So it's difficult for a US attorney to practice abroad. Now, US attorneys are working if you're a corporate attorney or you do project finance or different securities, US attorneys are working in China, they work in Hong Kong, they work in Singapore, they work in securities attorneys work in the UK, they work in all sorts of different countries all over the world. So you can definitely, in those countries specifically, you can get jobs working abroad, but you have to have some sort of expertise to work at least in decent sized law firms that is marketable either to a US law firm working there or to other type of law firms. So those are some of the good countries that are best. You have to typically have a certain type of experience. Sometimes you might be able to get a job doing international arbitration or something, but in general, those are the best countries, and you have to have a certain type of experience to do it. One thing people romanticize working in foreign countries as an attorney, but one thing I would tell you is that it's very difficult for foreign educated attorneys to get jobs in the US because obviously a US firm is going to prefer to hire someone that's from the US, right? So you would too. So people come over here, thousands of them, and get LLMs each year, and then they're thinking they're going to work in a US law firm and they never do. And because no one will hire them because they're foreign attorneys. So it's very difficult for US attorneys to practice law abroad. It's also not always a good decision because you're not going to have permanent residency in these countries. You're not going to be able to stay. You're not going to be able to get clients, and you need clients to have a good career. Now, people do go to Hong Kong and all these places and build up large books of business as US attorneys. So I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's extremely difficult. And you lose contacts in your own country that could help you develop business. You lose all these things that could help you if you were in the US. So it's not necessarily the best decision. And I see people do it all the time, and then they get senior, they can't go back to the US, they can't get jobs in the US. But how can our firm educate incoming associates on the financial structure of our firm to encourage business-minded thinking from day one? What I think is important to do is to basically what I talked about today could be very helpful to talk to people about the opportunity to if they once they learn once they learn and about their practice area and develop business that they can do well. But the simplest thing that law firms do, and I think you could do this in a whole bunch of different ways, talking about economics and things, I guess, like what I talked about today. But I think the simplest thing that law firms do is they give a percentage of the business of the business that the associate, et cetera, generates and that it generates. And so that And that's something that people, if they realize they can make 15%. Sometimes firms will pay 15, 20 of the billables that a client brings in. That's very attractive to an attorney. Imagine if a client's billing $10,000 a month and the associate's making an extra 2,000 or whatever, or 20,000, an extra 4,000. That's one of the easiest ways to educate people on that is the importance of business. But yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. Most law firms, by the way, that's nice you're asking that question because most law firms, and this is something that everyone should understand, aren't teaching people this. They just essentially want people to come in and do work. The associates aren't thought of as business generators or thought of as profit generators, mid-level, same thing. And then so an associate needs to look out for themselves to realize all this stuff. But typically telling people that they need to think about generating business is important. But most law firms, again, large law firms do not care about a junior. They don't want a junior or mid-level associate generating business because they want them working hard on their own matters. Just as simple as that. How does understanding a law firm's billing structure help me make better decisions when choosing a summer associate position? I don't think you need to understand a law firm's billing structure for a summer associate position. I would you take a job with the best law firm you can. You should not, most large law firms or decent firms do the same thing. They all charge, they billable hours, and there's no real difference, I don't think, between most law firms in terms of that. And I don't think you should hold a law firm's billing structure either against or for it for as a summer associate. As a summer associate, your job is to get a position in a law firm and to get hired and not to worry about their billing structure, just to get a job in the best possible law firm you can as a summer associate and to get an offer and or to take that experience and get a job at a better firm. You just want to get a job. You don't want to worry about the billing structure. That I just would caution everyone, don't find reasons not to work someplace. Get a job in the best place you can. You want to find reasons to get a job, not to choose between firms and stuff. So I don't know. Sorry. Those Okay, what economic pressures, and I'm not apologizing what I'm apologizing for is not giving you more of an answer saying you should reject a law firm based on this. I just think that young attorneys especially, miss the point. And the point is you want to get a job in the best law firm you can, get the best training you can, and learn from the best attorneys you can, and not worry about this other crap like billing structures, pro bono, paternity leave. Like people literally do this. Your job is to get training. A good law firm that gives you training is like a gift from God. You want to get the best training you can, and you don't worry about this stuff when you're young. Jeez. Okay, you can't worry about it. You don't have to work in a large law firm, but what economic pressures drive firm layoffs and how can I use this knowledge to protect my job? So law firms, the economic pressures are law firms running out of work. So they may not have enough corporate work. They might not have enough litigation, patent, real estate, whatever. So real estate is often driven by interest rates. So high interest means fewer deals. Your corporate is economic activity, corporate economic activity, different types of that. And you have litigation cases, active cases. So all these sorts of things can impact what's going on in different law firms. Typically, you'll have periods where things will just slow down dramatically, like corporate could slow down dramatically. Sometimes a law firm will have a bunch of cases settling. And how do you use that knowledge to protect your job? Well, you have different choices you can make. Depending on the type of firm you're in, the more or less likely you may be to be laid off. One thing I would tell you goes against a lot of what I've already talked about today is that positions in large law firms are usually more prone to layoffs than in middle market and smaller law firms. So if you go to work in Madison, Wisconsin, in Grand Rapids, Michigan, in Omaha, Nebraska, in San Antonio, Texas, and Sacramento, California, like some of these smaller markets, The attorneys there are going to be less specialized and they're going to make less money, meaning less specialization typically goes into major legal markets and not smaller ones. So if someone needs to do an IPO of a certain type of company, they're going to probably use a firm in New York City. They're not going to use a place in Omaha, Nebraska. Give me one second. Sorry about that. That's just something that's important to understand. So smaller to middle market places are less likely to experience layoffs because the attorneys don't make as much. The law firms aren't as profit hungry. There's more people that they can let go. Law firms in smaller markets typically will work on a bunch of different things for clients. Their billing rates aren't high, so there's a lot of more stability in those firms. When you look at firms in these smaller markets, people start their careers there, whether they're out of law school or a few years, and they spend their careers in these firms. There's not a lot of options of places to move. You find that in Syracuse and Rochester and wherever, smaller markets. Large law firms, you're more likely to get laid off. So that's something to understand. And if you're in a major, you want to basically try to find firms that don't lay people off. If you search for, let me just see here, I may have an article for you. You search firms that have laid people off. Let me just, there's an article I think I did on this. Oh, interesting. So I did this report. I think you can find it online. So I'm just pulling it up. It's called the Legal Industry Layoff Report, and it talks about this, what you're asking, in a lot of detail. Let me just show it real quickly here. If I can find it, Legal Industry Layoff Report. These are talks about layoffs at different points in times. You can see here you had a big 2008 and 9 that was huge, and then you had 2020. And these are the practice areas where you see the most layoffs. So you can see the the ones that are these highest numbers are going to be like corporate and banking and these sorts of things where you see the most capital markets, like all these different types of practice areas are very prone to layoffs, which is interesting. So you can see that, and then you can see fewer layoffs in IP and then fewer in employment and restructuring and that sort of thing. So the things are in green. If you were to go into employment, healthcare, bankruptcy, those are very stable comparatively. So think about employment law. People are always suing employers and vice versa. There's needs for defense. So this information I think should be very helpful to you to understand that. And then you can see different firms that have laid people off. These are same thing. We have Jones Day. These are firms where you don't see layoffs. Quinn, Wachtell, Debevoise, Cravath, and then you start getting into some of these others and more layoffs. It's not anything to hold. These are some other kind of things that affect layoffs. I would just take a look. This is not a huge article, but let me see if I can put this in chat. Give me a second here. There's no chat. Okay. Anyway, it's just called the Legal Industry Layoff Report 2008 to 26. And so I put that together because I think I love this stuff and hopefully that can help you. Let me see here. All right, let's see the next one. I have to get off early with this recorded. Like, how can I understand law firm profit models? So, yeah, to choose the right law firm for you and the long-term career growth, I don't know that you need to necessarily understand law firm profit models. You just need to understand what types of firms are you more likely to or fit what your long-term interests are. If a law firm's billing by the hour, you're going to have large firms, small firms, and you're going to have to decide in big markets and smaller markets, you have to decide which one you want to work in. And then if you aren't interested in working in a billable hour firm, then you can work in firms that do contingency work, whatever. So you have to decide what type of practice area and firm you want to work in. Okay, so there are more questions. Let me see, I got a lot more here. Okay, let me just see here. Okay, let me see if I'm having a hard time for whatever copying these questions. I don't know why that happens. Oh, give me a second. Sorry, copy, edit. Give me a second. So there are a lot more questions. I'm just trying to, I don't know why these are hard to copy. This is something to do with, let me try, oh, maybe I got this figured out here. Okay, give me a second. All right, I'm gonna do these, there's more questions. Just give me a second. I want to copy people's names So I'm just trying to fix that. Give me a second. These are great questions, by the way, too. Thank you, everyone who's asking these. I'm very helpful. So, okay, give me a second. So give me 1 second. I'm deleting, I'm just making sure because I know people, I wouldn't want my people are very confident, want to be very confidential about these questions. I'm just making sure their names are taken off. Okay, got it. Give me a second. Okay. All right, so let's see here. Okay, if money isn't an issue and you just want the best opportunity for professional development, are you better off working for a large law firm? Yes. So if you are coming out of school and you want to be trained or you're a young attorney, you're always better off working in a large law firm, at least for, if you can, for up to 5 years or 10,000 hours of work. The reason being, that large law firms are going to have large clients that can afford to pay large legal bills. And large law firms do things as well as they possibly can be done. So if you have a large client, that large client is willing to pay for very in-depth, detailed work and is going to expect very high quality work. Often they'll have general counsels reviewing things. And if you're a company that generates hundreds of millions of dollars in profit per year, you can afford to hire the best attorneys you possibly can, and you're going to have no tolerance for mediocrity or anything, so you're going to hire the best attorneys. So why wouldn't you want to work in large law firms that give you that training? You don't have to be a commercial litigator for a major law firm your whole career. You can do family law, whatever it is, but getting that training is going to change the course of your, it's going to make you a better attorney. So many attorneys don't go to work for large law firms. They work for small law firms, or they don't think it's important, and they never get the training, and they never become the type of attorneys that they're capable of being. So you should try to get training from the best law firms you possibly can. Now, that doesn't mean all the time that you need to work for a huge law firm. You could work for an attorney that used to work in a large law firm and has really good work habits and expects high quality work. It doesn't matter, but to be the best attorney you possibly can be, you want to work with attorneys that have gotten experience or are working for major clients that can afford to have things done correctly. Because think about it this way. If you're in a small town and you're working for a company that won't accept a bill of more than $3,000 or $4,000 a month, you're going to have to work very efficiently and not go into a lot of detail and just give them what they need. Whereas if you're in a major city and you're working for, say, your client is, I don't know, SpaceX, that SpaceX, a $1 trillion company worth hundreds of billions of dollars, is going to be able to hire anyone. So they're going to want very good quality work done. And they're not going to care if you give them a 300,000 or $3 million bill per month. But that client's going to want the best possible legal work. So you need to get trained in those environments if you can, at least with attorneys like that. Why wouldn't you? So it doesn't mean, and sometimes people go to third, fourth tier law schools, but they work for whatever they attorney that used to work in a huge law firm, maybe just one attorney and was trained that way. And then they are better attorney. They get trained by that and they become really good attorneys. So that kind of training is important. The depth that people can go into, the quality of work that's expected, the lack of tolerance for mistakes, it's just different in the biggest firms than it's going to be in other places. What do you suggest as a writing sample? Should actual case information for previously filed documents be redacted? Any information would be appreciated. I had this one candidate, I'm sorry, I don't like to use bad words, but no, if it's a document, a case or something, a brief that's filed with the court, it's public information. Why would you need to redact it? People do this all the time. They think, oh, I need to redact this information from my, no, it's a publicly filed document. You can always turn in things that are publicly filed. Why wouldn't you be able to? It's in the public. So I had a candidate literally that was asked to provide writing samples to several firms, two or three, and wouldn't provide them. And I was like, you can just provide something that was filed with the court. He said, that's unethical. And he didn't get jobs. I don't understand to this day what was wrong with that guy. This is recently, like in the past 6 months. You can't provide like a memo that you wrote for a client about a legal issue that's advising them that's private. You can course, you can provide anything that's public. Yeah. As a paralegal, how law firm economics impact me and what should I be concerned about? Paralegals need to be in environments where there's a lot of work and where the firm has work to give you. It's the same concern that an associate has. You just there's not the pressure, often the pressure to move up or out, but you want to be in a firm in a place where there's work that they can give you. And so that provides economic security. And if there's not, then you go someplace that there is. But you could work at a large law firm or a small law firm. You need to be concerned that there's enough work that the firm has to support you. How valuable is it for a law student to join law review? Does law review on resume carry a lot of weight when looking for employment? Yes. So it depends on the firm. I was on law review at University of Virginia, which I was very proud of. To be on law review, I was on law review and then I was also on a journal. And what law review is that you either grade on there or I think at Harvard, 80% of it is whether or not you're diverse or something. It's something really high. And that's a very good law review. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm making judgments, but different schools have different ways of getting on law review. Most schools, like in Virginia, I think you could grade, it was all grades, but then they would give maybe 2 spots per year for people that wrote on or something. And so it's just different criteria. But what I would say is that law review is important because there's a certain level of detail and things that people need to go into on reviewing law review articles before publication. There's very high standards that the students have, and depending on the school. And so you get that experience, you become very smart, very good at that. And depending on the school as well, your ability to get on law reviews shows you either have extremely good writing ability and you've written articles for publication, or I've got really good grades to get on law review. And then not only did you get on law review, but then you accepted the offer to join law review and did all the extra work to make yourself a better writer. Or like in the case of Harvard, that you were able to make a very good case for yourself. Like, why should I be on law review? Which is because they have a lot of opportunities for people from diverse backgrounds, and being able to make a good case for yourself is a form of litigation. And so that's very good too for people that are going to get Harvard, whatever the school. But that's some of the benefits of law review. So yeah, law review is very smart. When I was at Quinn, like everybody there was on law review. They thought it was a really big deal. And really all law review is your ability to write on there or to get grades to put yourself on there and then to do it. And then it makes you a better attorney because you learn how to shepherdize all these things that can help you later. When billing hours, how do you know how many hours to bill in each task? What is the acceptable amount of hours? Even if you work more than what is accepted on the task, will law firm provide guidance on this? You're supposed to figure out this self. So law firms are not going to provide guidance. They will, depending on the law firm. I think I said at the beginning, which I hope is everyone understood, in my entire legal career, spanning 30 years now, maybe more, 30, if you over 30 and 33, whatever if you want to cut when I first cut it, I don't think I've ever encountered an attorney being told that, with the exception of patent, that they billed too many hours on something. You can bill 100 hours to something and partner or whatever may write it off and only charge the client 50 or whatever. It doesn't concern you. They will bill whatever they can. Law firms and partners want to have the largest book of business they can. So the largest book of business will be determined by how many hours you bill. Some law firms will tell you partners will say, don't work more than a day on this. They will tell you that if they don't want you to. People will sometimes do that, but in general, you want to do the best possible work you can, depending on where you're at. Now, smaller to mid-sized firms will not want you to work a lot of hours on things, and they may have a lot of work and they need you to be very efficient. Certain partners you work for even in a large law firm may want you to be very efficient because they don't have clients who will pay that much money. But in general, you want to do the best possible job you can and then do that for as many partners and people you can. So you never know how many hours to bill, but in general, you want to do the best possible work you can. And that may mean billing a lot of hours. Sometimes it won't. And hours are interesting too because there's efficiency and then there's lack of efficiency. And how can a client possibly determine if you were having a good day or a bad day? So some people work more, some people work less. All right. Well, thanks everyone for being on this webinar. This was a whole, commend everyone for spending all the time on this today. This is an extremely important topic. It's something that can literally change the direction of your life one way or another if you understand it's the most important thing underlying working in law firms. It's why people succeed and why others don't. It can determine the entire course of your life, just depending on how well you're doing it. It's what destroys legal careers, not understanding it. It's what makes legal careers, understanding it. And the better you understand all these rules, honestly, the more successful you're going to be. And all it takes is just understanding them. And how do these rules benefit me or how do they not benefit me? And it's sad to me that so many people don't understand these rules, and the people that do, your career and your life are just immeasurably can be measurably better and different. And one final thing I want to just say, and then we'll wrap it up. But the economic rules of law firms are essentially saying, hey, you've got a platform here to start your own business. We're going to train you and you can make money for us in this apprenticeship role. But then you're going to have this great opportunity with all the skills and everything you learn to start your own business and to have us support the business for you. That's the proposition you're getting. But you have to play by our rules. And you have to bring in the type of business we want, or you have to get friends in the law firm, other partners that have a lot of work to sponsor you, whatever it is. But that's the proposition. And it's much more fun. This is just for everyone to understand. It's much more fun owning your own business than it is working for someone else. And it's just some people want to work for other people. They're good at that they're going to do that. But people that own their own business are having a lot more fun in their careers than people that don't. So partners that have their own business they can determine the course of their careers. They can determine how much money they make. They have other people working for them. Whereas associates and partners without business that don't have that and same thing, people that are in-house, people that work for the government are always dependent on someone else helping them. And those jobs have expirations. They never last as long as they could. Some last 2 years, five, whatever, 6 months. And so your career is really dependent on your ability to run your own business if that's what you want to do. And that's where everything should be leading, hopefully, for almost everyone. And they don't think about that way. So what does it take to do that? Self-improvement, learn what I'm talking about, getting excited, reading books, taking classes, whatever. But you need to get in that mindset if you want to be successful the way you can in this career. And what are the rewards for being successful? The rewards are being able to do a business into your 70s or 80s that you enjoy, having self-determination, feeling good about yourself, being able to support your family well, being able to have options to take vacations, to save money, to provide for your children's future, whatever it is, to have a nice house, nice car, to save money, whatever it is, that's what you can do. Anybody can do it. You don't have to have incredible social skills or anything to develop a book of business. I remember one of the funniest things I ever heard was Bill Urquhart, one of the founders of Quinn Emanuel, said, the biggest nerd in LA also has the largest book of business. So it doesn't really matter, who you are. Anybody can do this, and you should too. All right, thank you, and have a good rest of the week.